Good morning. Good morning. I'm so thankful that Dr. Graves has asked me to do a rendition of the I Have a Dream speech for your school. We're so glad. We're, of course, doing this virtually because of the pandemic. There were two questions that she asked me to answer prior to doing the speech. The first question was, why did I learn the speech? And the answer to that is because my mama told me I had to learn the speech. And I know that may sound funny, but just realistically, she told me I had to learn it because he was one of the most important African Americans in the world. And I found that to be true. And so I learned it when I was about 6 years old, and I have been doing it ever since. I'm 55 now. And so the second question she asked was, why was he a hero to me? He was a great hero to me and one of my greatest heroes because of the fact that, number one, he was a servant. He served the people, and a public servant, not a politician, but a public servant. But also, I really admired him for his courage because he spoke truth to power. He spoke truth to power and he did it unafraid. Does that mean he never had any fears? I'm sure he did. But he did not worry about himself. He was more concerned about how it would benefit us, even today. And it does. And so, he represents courage, great courage to me. And so as I get ready to do the speech, some of you will take your minds back to that time if you're old enough to go back to 1963. And many of us are not old enough to be there. But a lot was going on at that time, and a lot is going on today. And this speech is still pertinent to our times. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro finds himself languishing in the corners of American society. 100 years later, the Negro finds himself on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. So we have come today to our nation's capital to dramatize an appalling condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Declaration of the Independence and the Constitution, they were signing a promissory note to which every American citizen was to fall heir. This note was a promise that every man would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note in as far as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the vast vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come today to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom, but also the security of justice. But we have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. But we must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together as brothers and sisters. I have a dream that one day even the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every hill and mountain will be made low. The rough places will be made straight. The crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. And all flesh shall see it together. This will be the day when we will be able to declare with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when we want America to be a great nation, it must become true. So let freedom ring, let it ring. Let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Atlanta, Georgia. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every hill and molehill, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every city and every state, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to stand and join in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.